Hello everyone, my name is Paul. Welcome back to the new news. Now, normally there's a lot of intro and everything else. However, most of the time we are actually doing our 24-hour news stream, and we decided to break a little bit of that as there has been a lot of breaking developments today. Some of that stuff, right now, what we're going to be focusing on is just what is happening over the last few hours inside of Baghdad, Iraq. Inside of Baghdad, Iraq, there's been violence has broken out between the Badr organization, the Mahdi army, and the Iraqi army and security forces inside of the Green Zone, which is in downtown Baghdad, Iraq. At this point, the dead are currently tallying at least 17 confirmed victims amongst protesters. There has been a ton of violence between these groups, and we actually already have some of the breaking images that are being released for you today as we have been going through some of our main sources in order to kind of bring you a little bit of an understanding regarding what this situation is. Please be understanding this is very fragmented information, such as with the Kherson offensive, but please understand this is very fragmented, this is very early, and it's very difficult to tell exactly what is happening with inside the country, and a lot more information will be coming out within the next coming hours and days. At this point, there is a severe risk at the U.S. and other Western embassies within downtown Baghdad, as this is exactly where they're located. It's been reported that several high-level security officials within Iraq have already been either killed or wounded, including members within the security forces. And what we're seeing at this point is that the violence has really flared up to include heavy weaponry as well, as we can see in some of these videos that we have here. Just take a look. And so, as you can see, the violence is very much a very rapid and a very hostile situation. We're seeing everything. That is a Dishka machine gun over there, as best I could tell, at least in the dark, mounted onto the back of a flatbed truck. These groups, some of them are very well-known organizations within the Popular Mobilization Forces, or PMFs, and these include the Badr organization. They were basically formed as we know them now in 2014, though they had some remnants earlier on. And they are led by a member of the Iraqi parliament, a member of government there. And what they do is they formed and they fought against the Islamic State, which is where they got a lot of their notoriety. It's a majority there within Iraq. And some of this fighting is not just withheld inside of Baghdad. We do know at this point that there's reports of fighting within Basra, Iraq as well, which is between basically the Mahdi army, which is under the Sadrists, which are another section of the Shia population, a very popular group within the Popular Mobilization Forces, and a very strong thing there within Iraq when you're talking about politically. And what we're seeing is that there's fighting between these two groups very openly in the streets, and it pretty much boiled over into where they're at this point they're talking about the possibility of there being really, according to the United Nations, this is a pivotal moment for Iraq. This is at the risk, the risk of the collapse of the country of Iraq, and its government as we know it is currently there, and the violence has really gone to a quite unprecedented level since what we saw in the Iraq War, and that's really what's happening right now. I mean, just take a look at some of these very serious, very large-scale clashes ongoing here within downtown Baghdad alone. So, Kaysen, one of our mods has asked, there's so many tracers. Is that because the machine guns? Usually, one in every 5 rounds is usually a 4-to-1 for a tracer regarding machine gun fire. Yes, there's a lot of tracer fire tonight. It's also best to use in the darkness. We really don't know why they're loading that much, but I think there's a lot of automatic weapons fire in general. There are a lot of machine gun fire ongoing here. And the next thing we have here is some of Baghdad's skyline. If you want to talk about tracer fire, this is the skyline here from the green zone. This is coming from one of the apartment buildings in downtown Baghdad, where you can see just the immense amount of fire that's being put out in the middle of a city of 10 million people. Just take a look.
عاجل عاجل هذا مشتاق الله 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 هريجة هريجة
And the fighting just continues just to get worse and worse and worse, as you can see here. Just take a look at some of this. They are currently using 60mm mortars in RPG-7s that are firing them in indirect modes in some ways. And they are currently shelling different embassies there as well, and really also kind of shifting their focus not just against what we would consider, internal faction fighting, but also, towards the Western powers as well, which we also had seen in 2020, and I got to witness personally when I was there, when they tried to overrun the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. Now, JL, who's a pretty good member of the community at this point, they have asked, and they said, I am not familiar with the Iraq situation right now. Could you shortly explain what's really happening right there now and why? It's a pretty complicated situation, kind of like everything else in the Middle East, but to boil it down to a very oversimplified, and also I'm not an expert in Middle Eastern affairs or anything, I just spent some time there, but to break it down for you, there are several different factions within the Iraqi government. One of those main powerhouse factions is known as the Sadrists, or the Mahdi Army, which is the PMF, for Popular Mobilization Forces, a militia, if you will, that's backed by the government. And Sadr is a Shia cleric. He has a wide range of political power and influence over a large group of the much more poorer Shia sect of Islam. They are kind of a predominant group within this area. A lot of them live in the poorer side of towns, and he has had a lot of influence and a lot of backing by them. The Sadr organization, such as the Peace Brigades, and as well as the Mahdi Army, were the same ones that attempted to overrun the Baghdad embassy on New Year's of 2019 and 2020. That is one that I ended up actually going to and responding to when I was there in the Middle East during my second rotation. They have had very open clashes, and over the last few weeks, there's been a lot of protests, especially by the Sadr organization, by the Sadr different organizations and political groups, against the Iraqi army, or against the Iraqi government, asking for the prime minister to step down and different heads of state to step down and dissolve the government. And basically, these were all turned down. Iran very heavily backs them. They're basically, Iran, being right next door, is trying to kind of jockey for a lot of political influence within this region, and very heavily backs Sadr as well. And that's what we're seeing a lot of violence flaring up now, because those demands by Sadr, Muqtada al-Sadr himself, went unheeded. They did not dissolve the government, and he basically just said, what are you going to do about it? And that is what has happened now. That's pretty much what we're seeing. It's very oversimplified. There's a lot more to it than that. Please understand that. But at this time, we're just trying to get this breaking news out for you guys, and as quickly as possible, so that way you kind of are in the know as to what the situation is. And from what I can tell, this isn't being reported anywhere else right now. I'm pretty much one of the first, if not the first, to be reporting on this. So quite a lot of stuff to try and figure through. Once again, very fragmented. We're not going to know truly what's happening without the next couple of hours and days leading up into this. But you can see in here, they are firing these RPGs into what we can consider indirect fire. They're using them essentially as mortars, and they are using mortars themselves, and they're shelling also Western embassies. There's been fighting reported near the UN compound. There's been all sorts of stuff that's been happening tonight where we do not know of any Western casualties. All we know is of 17 at least protesters that have been killed, at least in downtown Baghdad. This is the green zone. This is the most secured part of Baghdad. It has been penetrated one time in the last 16 years, and that was when the assault on the Baghdad embassy did occur. And at this point, we are seeing it happen once again, and it has turned completely deadly. We do not understand what the situation with the Iraqi security forces are, but I'll kind of get into what the response is going to be, at least from the United States, as to these types of violence and these types of situations here once we get through all of the different footage that we have. And as you can see here, this is an RPG-7 guy right here. He appears to be firing at the U.S. Embassy. This right here is a sound that gives me chills, and it was very hard to listen to once again. This is the sound of the sirens going off in the U.S. Embassy in downtown Baghdad. This is the incoming siren. Incoming, incoming, incoming. This is the duck and cover siren. Duck and cover. Get away from the windows. Take cover and await further instruction. Sorry, I'm going to cut it short, not just because it's just a minute of the sirens going off at the embassy, but personally, after being shelled for a month and a half straight there, it's a little bit rough to kind of listen to that. It is. It truly is. So, I would try to pronounce whoever just said that. It's something CSH. I am really, really sorry. Where can I find these videos? We maintain a source list, and it's something that we use. It's kind of for official use only for us. But I can tell you right now, with a little bit of digging, you can go on to, say, Telegram and find a lot of this stuff. There's different Telegram channels. Unfortunately, we're not doing a map tonight, obviously, because this is just a breaking news situation. Yeah, so it's quite an interesting situation right now, but these are, a lot of this is on Telegram. This is where this particular one is coming from. There's stuff going around on, if you know where to look on, onto the different sources within, say, Twitter. That's where a lot of this stuff is coming from right now. And there's just a lot of stuff that's you're not going to be finding it on any official channels yet. No government agency is going to be showing you this stuff. And from what I can tell, there is no media agencies aside from local ones that are there on the ground able to actually report anything to you at this point. So I don't know how much more footage you're going to get, but a lot of this early stuff that you're seeing right here, this is the opening first couple of hours. I mean, this stuff opened up, this began about 3 hours ago, 3.5 hours ago now. So it's very new, very fresh, and I don't know how much response time there is. So a lot of this you're just going to be finding on, I'd say, Telegram if you go to the right channels. Conflict Zone is one. That's the one that I'm showing here for you now. I'll move myself here so that way you can see it. Go to Conflict Zone. That's a Telegram channel. They have a lot of this stuff for you, as well as some of these Twitter accounts and stuff. So I hope that you enjoy, but do keep in mind viewer discretion is advised on any of this stuff that we show you. Once again, here on the stream, we only show you about 10 to 25% of anything that's out there. And as we continue here, We see once again this is more direct RPG fire, except this time this isn't direct RPG fire at the U.S. Embassy. We're not quite sure exactly where they're shooting from, but within the green zone, pretty much all of these embassies are there together. Just take a look. This is Muqtada al-Sadr. This is the individual who is mostly perpetrating these attacks, at least on the part of his popular mobilization forces. And that is pretty much the mastermind behind all of this. These people are willing to fight and die for him in mass, and they're willing to take on anyone to do so. So someone's asking, JL has asked, do you think it can seriously affect general Middle East region situation? Very much so. Sadr taking any kind of political control within Iraq. First of all, plunging Iraq into chaos is obviously not a very good thing. It's going to destabilize the rest of the Middle Eastern region. What stability is built there. The Iraqi army has a lot of already kind of situations that they're dealing with. The Islamic State still some issues. You obviously have a situation with Turkey up in the north, within the Dahak region, fighting the Kurdish forces. You have several rebels in different areas of Iraq, mostly they're up in the northeast, or northwest, sorry. Of course, you're trying to kind of maintain that border with Syria, and you're trying to maintain the border with Iran. Iran getting more influence within this region is only going to make things more difficult for the fight against Islamic State and other extremist organizations, as well as coalition support within these regions, trying to maintain some kind of peace and stability here and some kind of normalcy, despite what everything has attempted to overthrow. Just look at the Iranian influence and their illegal shipments of weapons and goods to Houthi rebels there in Yemen, just to fight off the Saudi Arabians. It's going, if Iran is backing this, which they most likely are, considering they heavily back the Shia groups there inside of Iraq, including Kataib Hezbollah, then it's very likely that they will be willing to supply weapons, and this could turn exceptionally deadly, exceptionally quick, more so than it already has, as blood has already begun to run throughout the streets of Baghdad. Here we have the official State Department briefing from tonight. This has been officially released. So what we're taking a look at, this came in at 2:09 p.m. Eastern Time. Let's see here regarding the violence in Iraq. Let's see if we can get anything here. And it looks like this one may have been, yes, it looks like this one specifically was taken down. It gave us the last press release. Okay. And at this point, obviously, we've run through quite a bit of stuff here. But let me see if I can't bring up some more information for you, kind of show you what's going on. And where this is all taking place at the very least. Alrighty, so here's a map for y'all. This is the green zone. So when you're talking about the green zone, you're talking about like 14th July Bridge, and you're talking about all that wonderful stuff. And what you're taking a look here is down here. This is the U.S. Embassy in Iraq. Okay, if I can find it here. Where are you? Yeah, it's right here. So you're talking about this right here. This is the U.S. Embassy in Iraq. This is the Baghdad Embassy complex. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes along with this, but in general, it's pretty simple. So what you're talking about with the Baghdad Embassy complex is you're talking about it's the largest, most well-fortified complex in the world. And this is the largest embassy in the world. It was built in post-Iraq war period, and there was the last time that something had happened, it was when the Iraqi Kataib Hezbollah and several PMF forces ended up coming into the green zone across the 14th July Bridge. They marched down Al-Kindi Street, which is this street right here, as you can see. I wonder if it'll pull it up. Please pull up Al-Kindi Street. I guess not. And then they started attacking gay houses in the front of the Baghdad Embassy. Generally speaking, not a very good situation. Now, the United States does have, at least for our embassy, we do have a response force ready. First of all, there are a lot of contractors. I'm not going to disclose any numbers or anything. One, I don't know truly, and two, I don't have enough extra. It's been 2 years since I last had to deal with this kind of a situation, a year and a half, I should say. So things have probably changed since that incident took place. There's quite a good amount of there's a contingent I know of that of at least U.S. Marines that are there, whatever rotational forces are in there in the Middle East. And as well as you're talking about a lot of contractors. Of course, every embassy has its own Marine security detachment there. And of course, you have several other groups, I should say, special operations forces that will also already be there, as well as some other I would say clandestine organizations that are there as well, not to go into too much detail. Now, in response to this, what is already probably happening, as I tell you right now, is that the United States, the ambassador here in Baghdad, has called the President of the United States and has requested that the United States Central Command Crisis Response Task Force be brought into the Baghdad embassy to reinforce it. This comes from the country of Kuwait. Over here, they are staged at a base in Kuwait, and they are ready to go at a moment's notice. The initial group will be landing on MV-22 Ospreys, and they will be landing there shortly, and just to reinforce the U.S. Embassy there in Baghdad and ensure that it is good to go, and to reinforce the walls, build up some defensive positions, and to man any posts that need be, and in all reality, do what must be done to protect the United States Embassy. There will also likely be, once again, the 82nd Airborne Division has a group set aside. It has a selective number of units set aside that it can be readily deployed at a moment's notice for them to go into the Middle East for either further reinforcement of the U.S. Embassy, as well as other military complexes such as Camp Taji, whether that be Al Asad Air Base, whether that be Erbil, whether that be the U.S. Embassy or Union 3 complexes. It doesn't matter. They will be probably brought into Kuwait here within, I would say, the next at least 72 hours. That's kind of the windows right now. Arabic Shang asked, the embassy was not hit, right? No, the embassy, from my understanding, has been hit. I do not know if there have been any direct hits. I do not know if anything has hit. I do know that they do have it ranged in Iraq. We were shelled pretty consistently in Iraq when I was there. They have been hit quite often. They've gotten some pretty good ones in, and getting close enough, it doesn't take a lot. We do see that they have RPGs that they are doing direct fire with. We do know that the alarms, the duck and cover alarms are going off. We do know that the shelter alarms are going off, and we do know that the incoming alarm is going off. There's reports of CWIS activity in downtown Baghdad and Camp Taji. I do not know any confirmations of that. I do not have any videos of the CWIS engaging targets at this point. All we know is that the violence is ongoing, and that these Western embassies, not just the United States, but also other embassies are basically also being attacked simultaneously while this is ongoing. Once again, I cannot confirm any of this. This stuff is very fast moving. I cannot confirm the situation in the embassy. I do not have any current contacts in the embassy. All of mine are rotated home, and I do not have, what I normally would. So I apologize for that, but there are other embassies within this area. You can see the Netherlands embassy in Iraq, the Jordanian attaché, the embassy of Turkey. You can see the Danish embassy. You can see all of these different embassies are down here. The embassy of Italy. It's not just the United States that is under threat right now. It's just the United States is the one that I am most able to talk about. Kaysen says the U.S. Embassy employees left via helicopter about 5 hours ago. I will not comment on that. I do know about how long it would take to evacuate the U.S. Embassy in Iraq, and I'm not going to specify how long that process would take. But I would understand if they were beginning, or at least have been working on evacuating the United States Embassy of all non-essential personnel. Paul Tozer has asked, has the Green Zone been attacked by rockets? Thank you. The Green Zone has been attacked by rockets, mostly RPG fire and 60 millimeter mortars. I do not know if they are currently engaging the embassy with 120 millimeter or 122 millimeter Katyushas. They are currently... that is normally what they were shooting at us when I was there. Let me see if I can bring up some information here. It would appear that we got some more video footage coming out right now. So here's some fresh footage for you guys with everything that's going on there in Baghdad. Give me 1 second, everybody. We'll get this all set up and brought up for you. Thank you to our researchers who are keeping this thing alive, because it is very quick and fast moving. So thank you very much for those that are currently, or for Kaysen especially, who's keeping up this research. But here you go. Here's some of that footage. This is the newest footage coming out of Iraq right now as it is happening. This is what the situation inside the Green Zone in Baghdad, Iraq.
اقعد انقطع انقطع يلا يا جماعتنا جماعتنا من فوق من فوق هذا جاي من فوق.
And so what these are, this is the CRAM. The CRAM is a mobile basically anti-IDF battery or anti-indirect fire battery. It will pick up and detect incoming projectiles that are meant to hit the U.S. Embassy there in Baghdad. It fires thousands of rounds a minute. It's very crazy. Think of the same giant minigun that's on like most U.S. warships, and basically they put that thing on a trailer. That thing is currently, what this means is this has detected rockets and incoming fire that is coming to the embassy, and it is attempting to shoot it down before it can land inside the embassy compound. That's what's ongoing here. Go ahead and take a look. And so that means that is incoming fire. We did not have that when I was there. That was something that occurred after I had left Baghdad Embassy Complex. So this is a newer development. They did not have the CRAM when I was there. But I do know that they have it now, and it is very effective. But still, you can see it's trying to track these targets, and there's a lot that it has to deal with right now. And I do not know the ammo limit as for those. I do not know, how long it could take before they may run out of ammo, need to be reloaded, if they can be reloaded, or what that situation is at this point in time. JL's asking, what is the Green Zone exactly? I'm not really familiar with terminology, as I mostly follow the Ukraine situation. The Green Zone is an area within Baghdad, Iraq, and I'll go down here. It's known as the Green Zone. The Green Zone was the beginning area of basically, it's where most of the government buildings for Iraq are. It's where most of the main federal government buildings and all of the embassies are located at. This is the main part of Iraq. Sweet. Awesome. Thanks, Paul. My name is Paul as well. But this is where in Iraq, this is where all the embassies are. This is where all the government buildings are. The parliament for Iraq, the Iraqi presidential palaces would be here. The U.S. Embassy is here. All of the embassies for foreign nations are here. This is the most secure place within Iraq. This has so many different layers of defense that it is dumb. It is completely unbelievable that this would get penetrated. This is the first and most heavily, it got its name, Green Zone, after it was the only part in Baghdad that was considered safe by U.S. forces and completely secured without any penetration by insurgents during the Iraq War. That is where that That is where that terminology has come from, and it has stuck. It has maintained that kind of security perimeter, but it was taken over by the Iraqi government, of course, as that transition occurred in the late 2000s. So that's kind of what we're seeing here. That has been penetrated, obviously. That security has completely fallen apart. We already kind of had that assumption during the 2020 incidents, and now we're seeing that once again here. There's just a ton of, obviously, there's just a ton of stuff happening, and it's a bad situation. Okay, my time in the Iraqi embassy, I was in charge of the anti-armor operations there. I was the NCOIC of the anti-armor Javelin team that was located there. And it's a very difficult and very complex situation. It's very difficult to deal with. There's a lot going on. It's very stressful when you're there alone. I cannot imagine what the guys right there right now are doing, but I can tell you with almost 100% certainty that they will be getting reinforcements from the crisis response company out of Kuwait probably here within the next hour or two if they aren't already arriving and it just has not been released. I checked the United States Central Command as well as Joint Task Force Operation Inherent Resolve. Neither of them have official statements. There are no official statements by the Department of Defense, by the United States Marine Corps. There is no official statements by the U.S. Army. There is no official statements by the State Department at this point, other than we're aware of the situation. There is no statements from the White House. We do not have a whole lot of updates regarding that. There just seems to be just continual violence here. It's just continuing to get bad. But yes, that's kind of what we're seeing right now. Are there any other questions that you guys might have regarding the situation? I have a little bit more knowledge about this than I do than Ukraine, which is what we talk about probably most extensively on this channel, just because of the ongoing situation there. But I did spend quite a bit of time here with these kind of situations. It's just kind of an interesting one, to say the least. It's bad. It's really bad. Once again, the information is preliminary. I do want to preface this. It's very preliminary. So JL asks, so the troops that are those which were trained by the U.S. Army while they were there, is the government still the same party? I believe it's not the same party, but it's a very similar one. And the troops that were trained there, you're talking about probably the most famously is the Golden Lions Division. They are the ones that you see, the Iraqi security forces that are in all black uniforms. Those are the top guys. Those were trained by Special Operations Forces. They fought in the Battle of Mosul, one of the bloodiest battles in the Iraq, inside of Iraq. It's quite an interesting history. They're the ones that actually will respond to these situations, but it would seem that they seem to be overwhelmed. My understanding is that some of their officers have actually already been either killed or wounded, though we can't confirm any of that. There's quite an extensive amount of just kind of stuff that we're trying to find out. Jail, and Charlton Brooks says jail, it's an especially protected safe zone, usually around embassies and hotels used by foreign journalists, etc. Yes. So Charlton is 100% correct, except here it's just on this side of the Tigris River, and it's just this zone. This right here is the green zone. Okay, and now there is one hotel. It's a very pretty famous hotel. It's called the Babylon of Rotana. That's right across the street. You can see it's a very beautiful view. If you're there at the U.S. Embassy at night, it lights up. It's amazing. That's where a lot of foreign journalists will be. They will actually be outside of the green zone and outside of that security posture. But many of these hotels and stuff along the Tigris River, very close to and adjacent to the green zone, are going to have a lot more security, and at least internally within their compound walls, than you would see in other parts of Baghdad. Once again, this is heavy fighting, heavy clashes between different groups, the Badr organization, the Mahdi army, and the Iraqi security forces, all within a downtown, heavily populated civilian area of 10 million people, where there's a lot of foreign government entities that are also simultaneously being targeted by these groups out of who knows why, sheer hatred, whatever you want to call it. No parking in the green zone. Yeah, no kidding. No parking in the green zone. I don't think those rules apply tonight, Rooster. I don't think those rules apply tonight. But that is currently the situation here in Iraq. So I understand that this is probably a little bit of a shorter video. Please feel free to share this and let other people know kind of what's going on if they may be interested. But I felt that this was important. I take Mondays off, and obviously there's been several big developments today. And I'm going to try and take the rest of the night off too. But we will hopefully have more developments tomorrow for you guys and a little bit more clarification as to the situation. Tomorrow we will be covering 48 hours in review, both tomorrow and today's information, and much more depth and clarity when we cover all 48 hours of news and review at 10 p.m. Eastern Time and 9 p.m. Central tomorrow. Feel free to join us on the Discord. I will actually end up linking that in the description below, and I also have a Twitter as well that you guys can find me at. It's at Paul_TNN. So you guys can go and check me out there too. But other than that, I hope that you guys enjoy. Actually, I'll see. Sorry, at TNN_Paul. So I made a new Twitter, guys. I've never used real Twitter before, so it's a thing. But thank you guys for joining us tonight. I hope that you guys have enjoyed thus far, and I hope that you guys will continue to assist us in following along with the situation. Thank you very much to the staff that have assisted in putting this together on the fly. It's been very quick. I did not announce this, that I was getting ready to do this, but thank you very much for everyone that's involved. And please check out our website. It's thenewnews.net. And there we have a ton of charity organizations. Everything we do here is not just for the news, but we do it for charity too. So please go and check out all those different charity organizations that are there. That way we can kind of put a little bit of good back into the world. So thank you very much for joining us. We hope that you guys will continue to support us, and hopefully we will see you tomorrow. But thank you once again, guys. My name is Paul from the New News, and have a fantastic rest of your guys' night. Bye now.